Let me ask you a question. How many times have you had a tough conversation, or you approached a tough conversation and you avoided having that tough conversation only for things to get worse later? We've all done it, right? So today I want to share some tips, some strategies on how to have a difficult and hard conversation. Yeah, so great. So check this out. So hard conversation. I'm gonna go through a couple of things today. Four things really, actually, that we have found that are helpful for helping to help guys have difficult, challenging conversations. I've been married for almost 36 years. It'll be 36 years in September. And yeah, come give it up for Mrs. Williams. And I can tell you, friend, that in 36 years of being with the same woman, as a matter of fact, her and I dated for 2.5 years before we got married. We were together, I'm going to round it up, almost 40 years. I can tell you, in all of our time together, we've had multiple opportunities to have hard or tough conversations, right? And so early on, I wasn't really skilled at having a hard conversation. I had to get some help. I wasn't really comfortable having a hard conversation. Now, I did what is referred to as the off ramp. What's the off ramp? The off ramp is when you are approaching that difficult or hard conversation, you take that off ramp. You avoid that conversation. You switch the conversation. Sometimes you have the conversation in a relationship, and maybe it's with your wife or your significant other, and they become emotional. We are approaching a difficult conversation, and that their response is the other person's response is to get emotional. That's an off ramp. I get emotional. Why do I get emotional? Because I wanted to take the off ramp and avoid having that difficult conversation. But here's what I know, friend. Here's what I learned: that if you have the hard conversation today, you will enjoy having many, many more easier conversations later. So today is really about having a conversation about difficult conversations that leads to a better relationship. There are four things to remember as we go through this today. Number one is understand the power of hard conversations. Understand the power that's in a hard conversation. Avoidance only leads to resentment. Avoidance leads to resentments, broken relationships, but facing hard or difficult conversation head on, that leads to growth. So, friend, you and I got to condition ourselves to have a hard conversation. How do we condition ourselves to have the hard conversation? Well, if we value the relationship, we come to an agreement. We, meaning my wife and I, we come to agreement before the hard conversations that said, hey, hon, when we are having a hard conversation and these things start to happen, I want you to remember that we are on the same team. We are after the same results, right? So by establishing ground rules in advance for the difficult or hard conversation. Sometimes in having a difficult, hard conversation, my wife will approach me and she'll say something or she'll ask me a question, and not in a disrespectful tone, but it's a deep question. And as opposed to me having a reflective response, I'm awesome, baby. That's a great answer. That's a great question. I don't really have an answer yet, but give me a day or two to think about it. See, that's a strategy. I still want to have the hard conversation, but I say I'm not ready right now to have the hard conversation. I'm not prepared emotionally, physically, psychologically, whatever the case may be, to have that hard conversation, but give me a day or two. But number one is understand that there's a power in having that hard conversation. The second thing I want you to understand is that how to have courage over comfort. Have courage over comfort. See, it takes courage to have a hard or difficult conversation. Growth happens outside of your comfort zone. I was reading a survey that was done on successful people, and it surveyed several different successful people. And here's what the survey determined: the survey determined that 85% of the people surveyed, successful people surveyed, said they found their success from an unpleasant or an uncomfortable situation. So understand that there is growth and success on the other side of the conversation. That's why you have to choose to be courageous over being comfortable. When I'm comfortable, I'm trying to keep everything the status quo. I'm trying to maintain a certain level in my life. I'm trying to maintain a certain intellectual or a emotional capacity of my life. But friend, you have the capacity to grow both intellectually and emotionally. That's why in industries and in corporate America, they have um, emotional intelligence is added to the equation. How do you respond during difficult and stressful time? That's a measurement of your emotional intelligence. So number two is comfort. Comfort over. I mean, courage over comfort. Now, the third thing about strategies on how to navigate having these hard conversations that leads to a better relationship is understand that you got to lead with honesty and with purpose. Whether in business or marriage or friendship, or transparency is the key. How many relationships fail because things left unsaid? I was doing some research because I'm preparing to do some merit some I'm launching a our church is doing. Let me get my words together. My mind is firing like this. I attend Faith City Central. And listen, if you're in the DC metro area, you're within a 300-mile radius of the DC Central, the DC metro area, I want to personally invite you to come hang out with us on a Sunday morning. We have an 8 o'clock service in Temple Hills, Maryland. We have a 10 a.m. service in Brandywine, Maryland, and we have a 10 a.m. service in Baltimore, Maryland area. I personally attend the Baltimore, Maryland area. Listen, the Church Alive is worth the drive. And so, um, I'm reading some research, and research. One of the things I looked at is that it lists top reasons for divorce in the U.S. because the stats said about 50% of all marriages end in divorce. So if 100 million people get married this year, and I'm just choosing that, it's probably not that high. I'm just using that as an example. 50 million people are going to get divorced within the next 5 to 8 years. At the top was infidelity, financial reasons, and communication. Communication. As a matter of fact, if we talk, we can deal with the money piece. If we talk, we can maybe navigate and handle the infidelity piece. So having these tough conversations is creating an environment that's number one safe for your partner. It's safe for them to express how they think or feel, and it's safe because you are learning how to have challenging, difficult conversation. Here's some tips I'm going to give you. So whenever you approach a difficult or challenging conversation or hard conversation, don't start the conversation with you always. That word will trigger psychologically a defense mechanism, and the person that you want to connect with, the person that you want to give an understanding to, the person that you want to hear your heart now is in defense mode and is fight or flight. As opposed to saying, it makes me feel blank when you blank. You understand what I'm saying? So, but you have to be transparent and you have to be honest about it. And the fourth thing I want to share with you that I believe these are keys to how to have difficult conversation that leads to a better relationship is that you gotta always, at least for the group that I'm connected to, always gotta take a biblical perspective for the relationship and the conversation. The Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, that you should always speak the truth, but you speak it in love. Now, there are people that are saying, hey, I'm just a blank person. I'm just a forward person. I'm just a cut to the chase, a bottom line. I just tell it like it is person. Okay, that's great. That's your personality. But understand this, friend, the person that you're telling it like it is, I'm just giving you the real, I'm just keeping it 100. You are damaging the relationship and you are hindering your opportunity to create a safe environment. So the Bible says if you're going to speak truth and make it palatable or present it in love. That's one of the rules of engagement my wife and I have. We understand whether it's a challenging conversation or not. In general, we got each other's best interests at heart. That woman loves herself some Rich Wall Street Williams. And Rich Wall Street Williams loved me some Mrs. Williams. Ain't no woman like the one I got. But we established these rules for engagement. We're going to tell the truth because we owe the truth to one another. And we're going to tell the truth and we're going to do it in a loving, safe manner. And if you don't know how to do that, I want you to check out my video where I talk about practice and prophecy, right? Don't miss. You got these four, but that one piece that you need to add to it is go check out our video. Practice is a prophecy to the way that we perform in life. So you got to practice having these challenging conversations. So listen, fellas, I want to give you a challenge before we go today. Here's some homework for this week. And do me a favor. Do me a favor. Share with me your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to respond to your comments. Ask me questions in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to respond to them. I respond to all comments within 24 hours. So here's a challenge. Identify conversations that you've been avoiding. I want you to think about a conversation right now that you've been avoiding, whether it's with your spouse, a business partner, a friend, and take the first step and initiate that conversation. Listen, drop a fire emoji in the comment section if you are committed to growing. So listen, I appreciate you taking some time. Hey, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way, every time that we launch a video, you get the information. On the Motivate Podcast Show, we always say less, but we definitely want to believe for more. Let's get it.